Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another DC video. Today we're going to be talking about Warner Bros potentially selling more projects to Netflix. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future DC videos later this year. Okay, so the other day I made a video which I'm sure some of you guys have seen and maybe some of you are new subscribers from that video. I covered the topic of a new DCTV show that was currently in development with Greg Berlanti. Obviously, Greg Berlanti is the architect of the Arrowverse that moved over to Netflix from HBO Max, and that show is Dead Boy Detectives. You've seen Dead Boy Detectives in Doom Patrol before, and they are linked to the Sandman show that's already on Netflix because they were introduced in the Sandman comics. So in that video I explained why everything was happening, why HBO Max and Warner Bros. Discovery couldn't afford to keep a show like Dead Boy Detectives on their own streaming service, and why it was beneficial that they sold it to Netflix because, as I mentioned in that video, Netflix are willing to pay big fees for projects that are valuable to them, and I explained how that the link with Sandman, which is already getting a season 2 on Netflix, could be financially viable if they were to ever do a crossover, and Greg Berlanti is known for crossovers. But also in the video I discussed how this was actually a big move from Warner Bros. And actually a big move from Netflix because it shows they are actually open to buying DC projects, and Warner Bros. Are open to actually giving away their projects, licensing their characters to a streaming service like Netflix, and this could set a precedent for future projects in the future going over to Netflix that are linked to DC Comics. So mainly in the video I was arguing that Superman Lois, which is on the CW right now, could be moving over to Netflix at some point in the future, considering that there would be a big fee in terms of licensing the Superman characters in Superman Lois, and Netflix would probably be happy to do that because Superman Lois is very popular and would definitely garner a lot of attention, and likewise could future projects also garner a lot of attention at Netflix, and would also be financially a good move by Warner Bros., who are currently in big debt, which is the reason for the Batgirl film being completely scrapped and thrown away from HBO Max and it's not even going to release anywhere. They also scrapped Scooby-Doo, there was that project, and there was even more that were in development, like the Greg Berlanti Green Lantern TV show that they've completely thrown away, and they're doing a new show that's going to fit under the James Gunn and Peter Safran regime of DC Studios. So I don't think this is all creative decisions, it's business decisions because they are writing off tax based on scrapping these projects. So it's a business decision, and if they are looking towards trying to get out of debt, they could potentially license more characters to other streaming services. So let's focus on Netflix and get into today's main topic. Because if, say, Superman Lois goes over to Netflix, it's obviously financially a good idea for Warner Bros. Because Netflix would have to pay a hefty sum to actually have the characters from DC appear on Netflix. And at the same time, that would make Superman Lois and Arrowverse fans very happy because it would be a continuation of a storyline and of a TV show that they love. And it got me wondering, this could actually happen with other projects. And so something that a lot of fans online of the Snyderverse have been talking about is potentially selling the Snyderverse characters, storyline, and continuing what was left off in Zack Snyder's Justice League over on Netflix. And now let me explain why I think this is a good idea and it could be viable, and I think with them selling Dead Boy Detectives, the groundwork could have potentially already have been laid. So as most of you guys who are watching this video are probably aware, the fans of the Snyderverse who once before were successful in getting a different version of Justice League made, that being Zack Snyder's Justice League that was eventually released on HBO Max, they have been petitioning online that Warner Bros. Should sell its DC properties, well, specifically in regards to Zack Snyder's Justice League world and the universe he created, over to Netflix. And so that's gained a lot of popularity online that are probably going to be very excited by the news of Dead Boy Detectives moving to Netflix because they agreed to that deal and potentially, as I said, could open up a whole can of worms for more properties moving over. And with James Gunn and Peter Safran starting their new DC Studios universe, this new slate that was announced recently, they've made it pretty clear that they don't want to be involved with anything that the DCEU used to be in the past. So that includes the Snyderverse. And so they're moving on from that. They're creating new films, new stories, new TV shows, new animated projects surrounding this new DC slate. But as I said, I think it's financially definitely a good idea for Warner Bros. To ponder the idea of selling the rights to Zack Snyder's Justice League characters and potentially continue over there, whether it be through films or TV shows. Warner Bros. Could be making money on the side by having these films created by Netflix and just literally licensing it to them. And at the same time, this would be great for fans because the Snyderverse would continue. And as we already know, Netflix has deep pockets, and even though they're also in debt, they're not afraid to use their money and actually build up audiences based on having great content and high quality content. And it also must be mentioned that Zack Snyder has an already established relationship with Netflix. His film Army of the Dead came out a couple of years ago on Netflix, still available there. And he also has the upcoming film Rebel Moon coming to Netflix. So I think with his relation with Netflix and with the precedent being set by HBO Max and Warner Bros. Discovery, this path is becoming more and more viable by the day. I will have to admit, originally when fans started petitioning to have the Snyderverse on Netflix, I didn't think it was actually going to happen. But now that I'm thinking about all of these different things that are now lining up, I'm actually starting to think sometime in the next few years this could be viable. And I have to emphasize, I'm not saying this is going to happen right now, right this year, that DC is going to be willing to license its characters elsewhere. I think it's actually a bit unlike Warner Bros. And a bit unlike DC to license elsewhere. They're not like Marvel, who in the past sold many of their different characters to different film studios out there in Hollywood, and they've had to deal with that since. You know, that was a whole huge thing with the Fox-Disney merger. The fact that they wanted to get X-Men characters in the MCU, but they couldn't do it without some sort of special agreement between the two. So I don't think Warner Bros. Would ever do something like that and give exclusive rights to Netflix or any other streaming service or film studio out there. I think what they've done with this new deal with Dead Boy Detectives is that they've sold the rights to them just for these characters and for this iteration of the characters. Obviously, they don't have the problem of having two Dead Boy Detectives on TV at once because Doom Patrol has officially ended and it's not going to come back. So there's no real crossover there. However, DC would have big potential problems if they did sell the Snyderverse to Netflix because they will have James Gunn's universe that is ongoing in the movies at the same time as the Snyderverse being on Netflix. So it could cause some confusion, but in terms of giving exclusive rights, that's never going to happen. I think they could potentially just license them out for this specific set of storylines and maybe a set of films rather than going exclusive on everything, because I think that is highly unlikely. So just to summarize what we talked about, I think it's potentially possible that in the future DC and Warner Bros. Will consider doing more of this because they've set a precedent, as I've said multiple times throughout this video, which is definitely the most important thing that you should take away from this. And I am not promising anything, although I would like to see the Snyderverse continue because I was a big fan of Zack Snyder's Justice League when it came out. I would love to see the continuation of that Darkseid story because it ended on a cliffhanger and we don't know where it goes from there. So it would be nice to finish it. And I think this is just the perfect opportunity for Warner Bros. To make some money, try and get out of their debt, at the same time as continuing their DC universe with James Gunn and Peter Safran, whilst also pleasing the fans that have been petitioning online to get their old universe a new home away from what's happening, because right now things aren't looking good for people like Henry Cavill and many of the old actors who were a crucial part of the DCEU in the past. However, there is some people like Ben Affleck showing up in Ezra Miller's Flash film that could potentially still show up in James Gunn's DC universe. However, the Flash film is supposedly going to act as a reset for the DC universe to make way for the new films, TV shows, and animated projects that they have planned. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. If you want any expansion on what I've talked about in this video or my past video on Superman and Lois potentially moving to Netflix, please be sure to let me know down in the comments below because I really do value your thoughts. Also, I'm streaming on Wednesday. I stream every Wednesday. It's going to be a bit later this week. We can discuss more of this in that live stream. Plus, today is the last day that you can get my merchandise. So the link is in the description below if you want to get that. It's the dctvshow.tmill.com. We'll be releasing a new round of merch sometime in the next few months, but this is the first drop and it's going away because it's limited edition. So for now, just want to remind you, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video. And for now, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.
I see red.